Hello guys, this is IP Tech here, and in this video I'll be doing another PC build. So this time I'll be doing sort of a follow-up to my previous build, which was the ultimate 4K build, but this time I'll be doing a build that's more budget oriented, that can still do 4K gaming, but it's going to be at a lower tier, so I won't be able to max out games at 4K, but you should be able to play games on medium to low settings at 4K, which is still going to look a lot better than ultra settings on like 1080p. So, and it will mostly be focused on games that are not as resource required. It doesn't require as much resources like what most people are actually playing, like the RPG games such as Dota 2 or League of Legends, and like Counter-Strike as well. Those are the games that most people I think are playing. They're not playing big AAA titles, maxing them out. So there's no point in an ultimate build for those people, or for most people. So this budget build is going to come to just under £800, and it should be able to do play those less resource requirement games. Should be able to max those out at 4K, and should be able to play AAA games at low to medium settings with decent frame rates at 4K. So let's go on with the build. For this build I chose the FX 8350. It's a 8-core CPU, so more and more games are going to require more threads, so I'll just put an 8-core processor just to counter that, and it's a pretty cheap 8-core processor from AMD. If you really want to focus more on like editing stuff as well, then Intel CPU might be your choice, like an i7 or an i5. But for our build, we are trying to get the most budget oriented 4K build, and the graphics resolution is not really up to the CPU, so pretty much as long as the CPU doesn't bottleneck the GPU, then any CPU will be fine. And then you need to mostly focus on the GPU. That's what counts, and that's what's going to deliver the 4K resolution. And as you probably know that the AMD CPUs that do tend to get pretty hot, so you need an aftermarket cooler, and the stock one's not gonna cut it, especially if you wanna overclock this. And that's why I went with the usual choice, which is the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo, as I believe this should give enough cooling to even overclock this CPU to up to 4.4, 4.5 GHz, and even put some extra voltage as well. And next we have the motherboard, which is the motherboard I most recommend if you're going with a AM3 Plus socket, which is the Gigabyte GA978 UD3P. It's one of the best cheapest and best motherboards you can buy, as it does have 8+2 power phase delivery, so it's gonna allow you to get some decent voltages to your CPU, and that should in turn make it much better at overclocking. So you should be able to overclock your CPU further with this board. You could go with it is a 970 chip, which most people don't think it's good for the FX, the 8300 series, which I think it's more than enough, especially this one is a more high-end one. But if you want, you can go with the 990 chip, which is going to be a lot better at handling an FX 8320 or 8350 CPU. But I believe this is a better and cheaper choice. Next we have RAM. I went with the G.Skil Snipe series, 8 gigs of 2x4 gigs sticks of DDR1866 memory, so it's 1866 MHz, and RAM has really come down in price, as you can get this kit for just under 50 quid, and it's a very good kit. G.Skil makes very reliable and good RAM, and they're very well known for it, so I'd suggest getting this. But RAM doesn't really affect, as long as you have 8 gigs, it doesn't really affect gaming performance. Even if you have 33 MHz, it still would be negligible, the difference. Next, storage, as we do handling 4K, which storage doesn't really matter in terms of resolution. but what's gonna matter is the as I said, storage really doesn't matter in terms of gaming performance, but you do need adequate storage so you can store all the games you have, like your Steam library and that. But in my opinion, modern build or build today really requires SSD. Like SSD is pretty uh, important in a modern build because the performance difference you get in terms of loading up apps and booting up into Windows is just much greater in terms in comparison to the hard drive, a standard mechanical hard drive. That I believe that it's very important to it's essential to a modern build. That's why I chose the Crucial's BX100 250 gig SSD, as SSD's prices have come down like immeasurably since in the last few years. Now you can get 250 gig SSD for about 68 quid, which it was probably 3 times that much a few years ago. So I'd really suggest getting an SSD, and this is one of the best, good SSD from Crucial. They make pretty reliable SSDs and do so. I'd suggest getting this one, or you can go with a Samsung SSD. They make one of the best ones as well. But 250 gigs is probably not going to be enough for all your games or your Steam libraries. So I still would suggest going with a mechanical hard drive for your backup storage and storage for your games as well, save data as well, downloads and that. So I'll still suggest getting a 1 TB hard drive is probably enough. Like, which my favorite one I go to is the Western Digital Caviar Blue hard drive. It's a 1 TB at 7200 RPM, so it's plenty fast for any type of storing data. So I'd still suggest getting that, and it's only 40 quid, which is extremely cheap. Hard drive prices have come down as well, so you can get a terabyte for 40 quid today, and yeah, it's a pretty good hard drive, and I'd still suggest getting one. So the next is the graphics card, which is the most important thing in a build or gaming build, and you don't really need SLI Titan X's to play 4K games, as I said before, especially not as demanding as AAA games like the RPG games like Dota 2 and League of Legends, or even some AAA games that are not the latest ones like The Witcher or GTA 5. You won't be able to max them out, but you'll still be able to play them on medium settings in 4K, which is still gonna look a lot better than like 1080, for example, 1080p at ultra settings. So that's still pretty good, and you should still get pretty good frame rates, like over 30 FPS ideally. And if you don't mind playing games for 30 FPS, then you probably could get away with high settings as well. But this can max out all the less demanding games like Dota 2 and League of Legends and Counter Strike and all that. Should be able to max those games out at 4K and still get good frame rates. So, and the GPU I chose for this is the Asus R9 390. It's a new graphics card, which has 8 gigs of video RAM, VRAM, which is what 4K is. 4K is it's gonna use that RAM, as the textures and that and resolution are gonna be using that RAM. So that's why I went with the R9 390, which is not that much more expensive than the R9 290, which it's only got half the RAM. And I know people, like everyone's saying, it's a rebranded 290, like the 390 is a rebrand 290, which kinda is, but it's more of a refresh. So they have improved like a lot of the things, like the thermals. So it should in gaming loads it should use less power and perform better. So, and it's got twice the VRAM, so it should support the 4K games. So it's plenty of VRAM for 4K gaming, and it does have the horsepower to back it up. So I wouldn't go with the 390X, which is the performance difference is not worth the price premium you pay for that. So I'd get the R9 390. and it should have plenty of power to drive games at 4K, even a medium to high settings. Most games, that most people play, like the less demanding ones, and should hold its own against AAA games as well. So overall it's a good card from AMD. It's recently launched, so its availability might be limited, but if you can find one, I'd suggest getting it. And it comes up under £300, so that's still a good price. And I would recommend this over GTX 970, which is its direct competitor. I think it's in the same price range, and that guy's only got 3.5 gigs of RAM, as we've learned from RAM Gate thing. So I would recommend this card over the GTX 980 or the 290, as it's gonna perform. I think it's gonna perform better than those two cards. So. And next we have the case, and with this one I found a really good cheap case from Beat Phoenix. It's the Beat Phoenix Comrade ATX mid tower case. So it's a mid tower. It's gonna support all our components. Should have plenty of space for the motherboard, CPU cooler, and graphics card. So, and it's only under 40 quid, and it does come with a side panel, a very attractive looking design as well. Simplistic design, which I like. That big side panel is going to show off all your components nicely, and it's overall a good case. It's going to support all components. Does have a bottom mounted power supply, which is pretty standard nowadays, but you don't see that much in cheaper cases. But if you're looking for a case, which the case doesn't really affect any performance, so if you find a case that you like the look of it, then I would suggest getting it. The only thing you have to make sure about is airflow. So if it's got enough airflow to cool all your components, so there's no heat spots in your case. So this one should have plenty. It's got plenty of fan support. So it's overall a very good case, and I would recommend buying it if you're looking for a cheap case. And next, and last thing but not least, it's one of the most important ones actually, which most people overlook, and it's the power supply. I chose the Corsair CX 750 watt power supply. It's A plus bronze, so you get that nice efficiency. It's semi-modular, so it's only got the power, the motherboard cable, 24-pin cable, and the CPU cable, CPU 8-pin cable attached, which you're gonna plug them in anyway, so it doesn't matter. And all the other cables are modular, so you don't have to find a place to hide the cables. And I went with the 750 watts because I believe that thinking ahead and buying a power supply like with extra room in terms of wattage, it's probably the best thing to do, because you never know if you'll be upgrading it like a few years down the line, and the new hardware is going to require a lot more power, so you don't have to replace the power supply. And our build is not going to use 750 watt. It's going to use about 500 watts of power at full load, I think. And you see that in the PC parts picker list, and I'll link that in the description below, so you can check it out. It shows a TDP of 514 watts, which is you have plenty of room to upgrade the GPU and CPU as well. And it's overall a good power supply for only 70 bucks, 70 pounds, sorry. And I would recommend getting this one. And this is it for the build, guys. Hope you enjoyed the build. The total price came on just under £800, about £790, which I believe is probably the where most people would the amount of money that most people would spend on a good gaming PC for 4K gaming, that is. So thanks again for watching, and if you like the video, make sure you click the thumbs up button below, and make sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. And see you guys.